Okay, so here we have our main gear. Now when you take it out of the packet, this little brass washer here will actually be on here. Make sure you have got one of these because this spaces the main gear away from the lower bearing block. So that piece there should be pre-installed and be sat on there like so. And this just needs to insert through the frames, and then we can put our rotor head, which I've got over here. So our rotor head is going to insert down through the top of the frames, through the hole in the top of the main gear, and then we have the bolt and screw to go through the gear, which has got a hole in the bottom of it here. You can see that hole, and that's going to go through the hole in the bottom of our main mast as well, securing the main mast onto the main gear. So I'll go ahead and get that mostly done, and then we can come back and look at how we finish that off. Okay, so our main gear is now installed, and we've put the little nut on here as well. Make sure you put some Loctite again on here, just to make sure that nut stays in there and doesn't come loose. And then the last thing we've got to do, just to finish it off, is we've got our collar here, the mainmast collar. Now its job is to make sure that the whole assembly here can't move up and down. So if I show you the main gear, you can see the main gear is moving up and down. Basically what we want to do is we want to pull the rotor head up out the top of the frames. At the same time we want to push the mast collar down, so pull the rotor head up, push the mast collar down, and then tighten it and secure it in place, and then that stops the main gear from moving. No vertical play in your main mast and rotor head. So that's the idea, and there are two grub screws here, both which will require Loctite to hold that main mast collar in place. So I'll do that, and then we can start looking at fitting the tail push rod. Okay, so there we go, the collar is fitted, and if I pull here, there's now no play at all in the main shaft, no vertical play at all. So two more things that I want to do just to finish this sort of frame or bare bones model build. One is to install the tail push rod, and the other is before we get the servos in. As you can see here, we can see nicely down onto the mesh for the motor, so you can see the pinion gear down in here. If the camera would focus in that area, let's see if I can force it to do that. There we go. So you can see the pinion down here, and this is an ideal time for us to set that mesh, because we're going to install servos in this gap here, and we won't be able to get easily at the motor screws. So this is the perfect time to set the mesh on that pinion to the main gear. But before we do that, we'll put the tail push rod in, and then come back to that. Okay, so here I have the tail push rod, and what we're going to do is we're going to put a ball link on one end, and then we can thread the push rod through the push rod guides, and I'll need to hold that with some pliers just to put that on properly. But then we can push that through the push rod guides, and then we can put the other ball link on the other end. So I'll just get this ball link on the back here properly screwed down a little bit more, and then we'll insert it. Okay, so what you can see here is our two push rod guides, and I have a ball link on one end of this and nothing on the other, and basically we're just going to thread it through. So through one, through the other, and then at the back here, I'll bring this back, we've got our ball link, and that needs to be snapped onto. Oh, that's stiff. I'm going to have to use ball link pliers to put that on, but that will snap onto that ball there with some ball link pliers, and we just do that off camera. Okay, so there we go, that's now on our tail pitch mechanism, and that all feels nice and smooth and free, and we can now go to the other end, and up here we've just got to install our other ball link onto there, and this fella here, and then that's our tail push rod done. Okay, so next job is setting the gear mesh here, and what we want to do is we just want to slacken off the two motor bolts and then push the pinion into the gear. Find the high spot of the gear, because the gear won't be round, it's a moulded gear, so it will have high and low spots on it. Spin the gear until you find the high spot, and then set your mesh at that point, and you just want a really tiny weeny bit of backlash on the pinion at the high spot, and there will probably be a fair amount of backlash at the low spot, and then that's it, that's your pinion mesh set. Okay, and there we go, that's the pinion mesh set, and I don't know whether you can hear that. That's the backlash I've got in the pinion there, just a tiny weeny bit of backlash as I'm rocking that gear. Okay, so we do have a couple of little finishing off items to do here. Notably, there's no blades on the helicopter. There's also no tail blades on the back here, so we can install those. On the tail blades, don't forget to put Loctite on these screws after you've installed the tail blades. On the main blades, you've actually got nylock nuts, so you don't need to worry about it. And from a installation of or build of the model point of view, that's pretty much it. It's complete. But of course, we've got to install all of the electronics into here, and that's the next thing we're going to be doing. Okay, so that's our tail blades installed. What I just want to show you here is the tail blades and the orientation of them. So we've got our horizontal stabilizer, this piece going down towards the ground, and then our lower blade, the leading edge, faces towards the front of the machine, and the upper blade, the leading edge, faces towards the back of the machine. And when the rotor is spun up, the blades rotate that direction like that. Let's try and bring this a bit more into shot, so there you go, like that. Spins like so. Okay, so that's the tail blades on. I'm actually not going to fit the main blades because I've still got an electrical install to do, and they'll just get in the way. So the next thing we're going to move on to is the installation of the servos. Okay, so to install the servos, the first thing we've got to do is install into the frame what the manual refers to as plastic nut. And I've actually got one sat in the frame here, so you can see it here. And basically it's these little things here, and they literally just push into place. So they have a sort of a slot in one end, and you basically put them into the this is very fiddly for me to do on the camera, but you slot them in like that, that's it, and then push it into place like that, and there's your servo mounting with a hole in it, and your servo can then screw onto that, and that's nice and secure in the frame. So we need to install all of those for the various servos, and then we can screw our servos into the frame. Okay, so here we have our left side frame, and we just have the plastic nuts installed in the topmost position there. And then for our right hand side frame, I'll switch that over, you can see the plastic nuts installed at the back here, and in the lower servo position. And once those are in place, we can go ahead and bolt our servos into those positions. So that's what I shall do next. Just before I do that, I'm just going to grab the servos out we're going to be using. Here they are, and these are they're all three in one packet together, and these are the DS410M servo, which is the metal geared 410 digital servo, and you can see just a single screw hole, and that's what we're going to screw into our frames.